this is where guitar takes a big leap in terms of what we can do. Hey everyone, welcome to MT Guitar. I'm Mitch, and today I want to show you something that could change your life, musically, that is. I'm going to teach you some exercises that teach you music theory. These exercises can be played by anyone, I think, at any level. It's not necessarily about how fast or slow we do this. It's about understanding music theory through these exercises. And just to make a point on music theory, music theory can be scary because we think it only is an intellectual pursuit. But I find that my progress has been largely when it's ear related, when it's finger related even, and especially when my creative mind is working, when I'm excited about it, when it sounds good, I tend to learn more about theory. And so these exercises are meant not only to get you to think about theory, but also to hear it, right? To hear the theory, to see it on the fretboard. And that's going to be a big goal of this lesson. I do have a doctorate in music, so I've gone the traditional route, meaning I've taken every music theory class you can imagine, where there's no instrument in sight and you just have a pencil and some staff notation, and you're just sort of writing notes till the cows go home. And that's great. It's never gonna hurt. But the truth is that we don't need that as guitar players. And I knew a lot about theory before even music school, and that was because I had a really good teacher who showed me some secrets that I want to share with you. So the fretboard becomes our teacher, and you might be confused as to how one confusing thing like the fretboard can teach you about another confusing thing, which is music theory. Well, I'm going to show you that and try to prove this point here. First off, we need to set some ground rules. You need to have a couple things memorized in order for the fretboard to teach you music theory, all right? As opposed to just mindlessly playing, we're now going to understand what we're playing, and it's going to be translated into the key we're playing in, the notes we're playing, and everything in between, the chord tones, the arpeggios, the scales, the triads. This is all, a big picture that we can try to connect, all right? So, big claim, let's get started right away. We want to understand all the bass notes. There's 12 notes in music, and so as long as we can memorize from an open E, open 6th string to 7th fret 5th string, every note memorized, no exceptions, all right? So there's 7 letter names. E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. All right, that's an octave. Octave meaning we have the same letter, which is E, but up. All right, there's 7 notes, so an octave is the 8th letter. So that means the letter E repeats. Okay, every note in between needs to be memorized. So we've just done the natural notes, meaning no flats or sharps. Now you would do the flats and sharps. There's 5 of those. They're in between all the notes besides E and F and B and C. We don't have a flat or sharp. So between F and G is an F sharp or G flat. Between G and A is an A flat or G sharp. Between A and B is a B flat. Rarely do we call it A sharp for various reasons. Between C and D is C sharp or D flat. And between D and E is E flat or D sharp. All right. So memorize those, okay? Now we need to know that an octave from any bass note is always, without exception, 2 strings and 2 frets away. So between a G, for instance, 2 strings and 2 frets would be another G. Same thing with a C bass note. I know this is a C. When I go up further, I then have to add 1 more fret to make it 3 frets. So there's a G. 2 strings and 3 frets would be a G, or 2 strings and 3 frets would be a C to a C. Whenever I'm on the high E string, I can reset on the low E string, all right? And you're just going to want to memorize these octaves. I do have a couple worksheets on this, but I'm going to be creating a brand new study guide for the Patreon, where I'm going to spell all this out for you at patreon.com/mtguitar. All right, so those are the 2 prerequisites, right? We got our music theory course here, and we need these prerequisites. Memorize the bass notes and know how to go up and down octaves. All right, now that we've done that, we need to pick a scale, and we're going to see how the scale will begin to teach us music theory, but we'll go much further than that, believe me. All right, so I'm going to pick a G major scale. It's a good choice to start. A lot of songs are in G major. And we have an open chord, but we also have a bar chord. And we're really going to stem from this bar chord. We don't want to play open strings too much on a scale when we're learning theory, because they can confuse us because we're not fingering the note on the left hand. And so we want to see every single note being fretted. All right, so The next assignment for you here, feel free to pause the video, is to memorize this scale. 3-5, which that's a G to A, B, C, D, 2nd, 3rd, 5th frets, E, F sharp, G, 2nd, 4th, 5th frets. And we're at an octave. Remember the 2 strings, 2 frets. Doesn't have to be fast. Now we need to do the next octave. G goes to A, B, C, that's 2nd, 4th, 5th frets. D goes to E, that's 3rd and 5th frets. F sharp goes to G, that's 2nd and 3rd frets. You have a high A, might as well hit it. Neighbor note there. But the G is the scale, so we're really stopping there as far as where the scale starts and ends. So now, let's run that scale together, nice and slow. 3 and 4 and... Back down. I went all the way up, all the way down, and then stopped at the root note, or the tonic of the key, which is G. All right. Now, the problem with this is if you stop here, you're left thinking, I'm not that impressed, because really, I'm just sort of playing the notes and I hope that it works out. I don't really know what I'm doing. I know that it's called a G major scale. And it seems kind of overwhelming to memorize that's an A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. I agree. I don't think that's the right way to go, because as soon as you switch keys, what are you going to have to memorize? This is A, B, C sharp. Okay, we have a C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. It's the same pattern, but I'm saying all these new names. This is where guitar takes a big, big leap in terms of what we can do. Very powerful leap ahead. We can leave horn players and piano players in the dust with this secret I'm going to show you. We don't have to call the notes of the scale the letters. We can call them numbers. And in fact, this is the language musicians will use when they talk about, say, a progression. They might say, hey, it's a 1-4-5 progression. Okay, cool. Can you play the chord tones? What are the chord tones? Oh, the 1-3-5 of each chord? Okay. Hey, can you play some triads? First inversion triad, whatever. So we're using numbers. Go to the 6th chord there, the relative minor. We're using numbers in music, and this is, some call it the Nashville numbering system, but it has roots before that as well. This is where we don't have to worry about the letter names anymore. All right, and so we can start to learn about music theory and use these patterns that are memorized to our advantage. This G scale now, we're not going to think of it as G, A, B, C, D. We're going to think of it instead as 1 through 7. Remember I said there's 7 letters. 7 letters in every key, 7 letters in music. Then you hit the octave. So we have finite boundaries. It's not just infinite notes forever. It could be, but not in terms of how we're defining it, right? 1 through 7. Then we have an octave. Then you can keep going higher, but just realize it's still 1 through 7. So now G is 1, A is 2, B is 3, and here's an important thing about music theory. 3 to 4 is a half step. The rest were whole steps. So we have whole step, half step, 3 to 4, 3 to 4. 5 is a whole step, 6 is a whole step, 7 is a whole step, half step to 1. Okay? This is very important. No matter what the key is, that will be the major scale. If you want to do a different scale, that's great. But now we know 1 through 7. You can do an experiment, maybe not like that, but you can do an experiment and just go up whole steps and half steps. So if I want 1 to 2, whole step, 2 to 3, whole step, 3 to 4, half, 4 to 5, whole, to 6, whole, 7, whole, 7 to 1, half. I'm at G, up 12 frets. We know 12 frets is also an octave, 12 half steps, right? So this works no matter where I am. I know the formula of a major scale is whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. But even better than that is 1 through 7. Everything is whole besides 3 to 4 and 7 to 1. That's it. Now, if I go to the next octave, I can see this in action. 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, half step. 4 to 5, to 6, to 7, 7 to 1, half step. Now, if I want to see what any of these notes are, no problem. Let's say I want to like that note. What note is that? Well, I know the rule of octaves says that 2 strings and 2 frets down will be a bass note. And I've memorized these bass notes as Mitch told me to do, and that's a B. All right, cool, I'm playing a B. That's the third of G. I like that note. What's that? All right, well, 3 frets, 2 strings, if it's that high up, takes me to a low E. And I told you 6th and 5th strings, so then you got to go one more note, I guess, if you don't know. 2 strings and 2 frets, low E. Okay. So, what note is that? That's the 4, but that's a C note. So now the fretboard is going to teach us the notes of the key. For G, a lot of this is pretty basic because the key is just 1 sharp. But if I play a relatively common key like E major, there's 4 sharps in that. So if I learn a different major scale, perhaps say this one, starting in the 5th string, not on the 6th string, but the 5th string, I can learn the notes of this key. So first step is, like I said, play the scale musically, meaning don't even think about it, just play it, memorize the fingerings and the pattern, play it with good time, good tone, good sound. Ready? 3 and 4 and. Up, all the way down, and then center back on E. That's how you should do it. Now we want to notice 1 to 2 to 3, 3 to 4 half step, 5, 6, 7, 7 to 1 half step, 2, 3, 3 to 4 half step, 5, 6. Try to reach for 7, 8 if you want. 7, 1. 8 is another word for 1. But I wouldn't venture too far from this position for now. Now, I want to notice that, well, okay, I have all these notes in here. F sharp. How do I know it's F sharp? Well, I'm kind of debunking my own rule here. This is beyond the 7th fret, but if this is E, E to F is 1 fret, this is F sharp. What's this note? Well, we know 2 strings, 2 octave, 2 strings, 2 frets is a G sharp. There's an octave of a G sharp here. We've memorized that that's G sharp. What's this note? Again, 2 strings, 2 frets away is an A. So it's an A note. What note is that? That's a B. What note is that? That's a C sharp. What note is that? It's a D sharp, E. So a lot of sharps, but we've memorized the bass notes and we know how to move the octaves down, so this isn't a problem. So far the exercise is simply just, well, play the scale. It's not like the exercise is all that tough. We're just playing a scale up and down. Then the exercise is a bit more intellectual. We're noticing the numbers. We're noticing the half steps. Then if we want, we can notice what the note names are called. Notice I'm kind of a little bit not as important, right? The note names, you can get them or not. It doesn't really matter. You're still playing the right scale degrees, all right? Some would call these intervals. I disagree with that. An interval is a distance between 2 notes, but it's all good. You can call it an interval if you want, but it's really a scale degree. Okay. Now, let's get a bit further. I think this is sort of still foundational. You have 5 positions of each key. So if I have E major, I do have 5 positions. There's the D shape. I'm not going to go through them all. I have a lesson called the complete caged system, or the complete cage lesson. I forget what I called it, where you can just search MT Guitar Caged, or I'll put a link in the description below. It's also on my Patreon under the Music Theory and Fretboard Understanding collections and whatnot and keywords. That's all been taught and laid out. This is just a reminder of, this is an assignment I'd like you to do if you want to take this stuff to the next level. Play the major scale, memorized eventually, in all 5 shapes. So there's the D shape, C shape, don't have to play them fast, A shape, G shape, and E shape. And then you would be repeating at the D shape. So that's all 5 in E, for instance. All right, and now we want to take it to the next level and actually make music. So let's say I have a chord progression. All right, now we've gotten to the next step here. We've basically outlined the key, the 1 through 7. Now I want to find a chord progression. Let's go back to G. Sounds about right. There's a common chord progression, all right? With or without you comes to mind, but many hits have this same exact progression. And the key doesn't matter. Now we're going to call these chords Roman numerals. So we're not going to even say G, D, E minor, C is the end-all be-all, because I can do this in any key if I use Roman numerals. So what do I mean? We want to call these 1, 5, 6, 4 chords. Just 1, 5, 6, 4 in the key of G. And then I'll show you how to do this in any key. But 1, 5, 6, 4. How do I know it's a 1, 5, 6, 4? Well, G, D, E minor, C is the chord progression I found, or I figured it out by ear, whatever I did. And now I'm going to find out what those notes are in the scale. So G, D, E minor, C. So G is 1, so that's major. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I run into a D. So the D is the 5 chord. The 5 is major. 1, 4, 5 are major in a major key. Next note I need is an E. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's an E. I recognize it as an octave of that low E bass. We know that the 6 is minor. The 2, 3, and 6 chords are minor in a chord progression. If you don't know that, you know that now. All right, so I know that's the 6th chord. And then I know that the next chord is C, so I find a C. And it's the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now I have 1, 5, 2, 6, 5, 4, back to 1. Okay? I don't know why I'm singing the melody to With or Without You right now, because that's not really the point. But it doesn't matter what the song is. Now I say I want to play melodically over these chords. Play the major pentatonic for a while and just feel good, sound good, know that you're making good music. And you know, you can use major pentatonic over this, or you could use E minor pentatonic if you want. Or you could use G minor pentatonic if you're really clever and you know how to make that work. But you're going to want to mix it with major. But anyway, you have some options with just one scale. Major pentatonic, minor pentatonic, relative minor, whatever. Those are the tricks and sort of tips and tricks that we use without thinking about theory. But now we're trying to face our fears. We're trying to understand music theory with a basic exercise. So now, what are the notes of a G chord? Here's where, again, we can pull out our theory books and work away at all 12 keys, and maybe one day, you know, we can apply it to guitar if we're lucky. But instead, we want to have the guitar exercise teach us music theory. Well, we know that G, B, D is a major chord. Okay, really, who cares? We know it's a 1, 3, 5. 1, 3, 5. That's not so hard. I've learned 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you're telling me that that's a G major chord? Yeah, that's a G major chord arpeggio. And I'll prove it to you by showing you that if I transpose this, not transpose, but if I play the enharmonic equivalent of this D 5th fret on the 4th string, I have the first 3 notes of a G chord. That's a G triad right there. G, B, D. We're just happening to play them fretted in a melodic way in a position. Now I want to repeat that process up the next octave. 1, 3, 5. 1, 3, 5. Okay, so 1, skip the 2, 3, skip the 4, 5. Now we skip the 6 and 7 of the scale. And we go 1, skip the 2, 3, skip the 4, 5. Skip the 6 and 7, straight to 1. So here's another exercise teaching you the chord tones. It almost looks like a G major chord, right? Because we're basically playing the notes of these triads as well, but melodically. Now, you can finger this in multiple ways. Instead of going the pinky here, you can just go the ring finger. Or you can keep the pinky down. Okay? Don't want to do it so fast that you mess up like I just did. That would be the chord tones. Now as it goes to the 5 chord, I want to play the 1, 3, 5 of the 5 chord. All right, of the 5 chord. So we have to think multidimensionally. We have to think about what's the 5, okay, and then what's its 1, 3, 5. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Make that our kind of temporary 1, if you will. 1, skip the 2 of that 5, if that makes sense. Hit the 3, skip the 4, and hit a 5. So 1, 3, 5. of the 5 chord. This is where some eyes roll back, and I understand. But if you can get this and get over this hump, it's really important, because now I can play over a different chord, not just the 1 chord. Then we skip the 6 and 7 and go straight to the 1. Notice that's a D octave right there from the 4th string bass. 1, skip the 2, 3, skip the 4, 5. I can go down to the low 5 and 3. I'll leave that out for now. So, 1, 5. Now, for the 6th chord, we get to learn about minor. We go to the 6, we make that our 1. But the problem here is, minor is different. Minor is not 1, 3, 5. Minor is 1 flat 3, 5. This is why we need to understand that the 6 is the temporary 1 for now, because we can't always just be in major, right? We need to play minor chords. I love minor. Sometimes I look at my original songs and there's periods in my life where I only write in minor. You know, I just love the key. So a lot of Pink Floyd songs are in minor, okay? And you know I love Pink Floyd if you know this channel. So I'm going to play this E, and I'm going to notice that as I skip the 2 and go to the 2, it's 3, it looks a little different. It's a little shorter of a distance. Well, that's because it's a flat 3. Flat 3. It would have been whole step to 3. In this case, it's a whole step and a half step to flat 3. So it changes the whole thing. We're not going to go into every little thing about minor, but again, these exercises teach us music theory. 1, flat 3, skip the 4, 5. Skip the 6 and 7, okay? 1, skip the 2, flat 3. Notice it's a half step. Skip the 4, 5. All right, so now I have a minor arpeggio, but I really didn't have to leave the scale. By learning a major scale, I learned a minor arpeggio if I think about it creatively enough. This exercise is teaching me music theory. The other thing you'll learn about basic music theory is that a major chord is a major third, meaning 2 whole steps, followed by a minor third, which is a step and a half. Whereas a minor is the opposite. Minor is step and a half, which is a minor third, and then 2 steps, which is a major third. So these exercises are reinforcing that for your ear, for your mind, for your fingers, and for your musicality. All right, we have done 1, 5, 6 chord, sort of arpeggio chord tones. Now we go to the 4, all right, and we do a 4 chord arpeggio. This is our 1, skip the 2, 3, skip the 4. Looks like it's a sharp 4, isn't it? But I'm whispering because I don't want to focus our attention on that. 1, skip the 2, 3, skip the 4, 5. Skip the 6 and 7, 1. Skip the 2, 3, skip the 4, 5. So now in one position, I haven't even done all the 5 positions, but just one G major scale position, I've done the chord tones for a common chord progression, 1, 5, 6, 4, without really leaving. I've learned about where these chords begin and end, where their chord tones are, where their root notes are, what the intervals are, what makes up the chord, and I'm getting better at the scale in the whole process. So now I can play over a chord progression and try to hit these chord tones. So that would be the way to wrap this up, is you'd say, hey, I'm ready to put on a song in any key. Let's say it's in the key of A. I just go up to here and repeat the same process. I highlight 1 through 7. It's going to be all the same relative notes, just in a different key. Or B, or C, or D, right? Whatever. You're getting a little high up by the time you get to D or E, but you can just switch to a different position. So here's G, and I've got all 3 chord tones of all 4 chords in one scale position. Then I've got 5 scale positions. So you'd want to switch keys and then switch scale positions. So to keep it going. But know that the power of one key, one scale position can teach you a lot about music theory. I'll throw this up on the Patreon, and let's end with me playing this sort of in a quasi-formal way. I'll try to make a rhythm out of it. 2 bars of each chord, G, D, E minor, C, and then I'll start to play a bit freely at the end and kind of improvise to send us off. All right? So the exercise portion. All right, we're going to do 2 bars in 3/4. 1, 2, 3. 1. again. Sorry. Now I'm going to play around. Hope you've enjoyed. This is meant to be, like I said, an exercise or a series of exercises that teaches you music theory, and hopefully, like I tried to do there, get you to have a little fun, get you to get your ear involved, get your fingers involved, not just only try to understand music theory with our minds, but also with our ears, with our hands, and our fingers, and our creative minds as well. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Remember to subscribe. I'll talk to you next time. Thanks. Bye.